It's my annual predictions, and last year I predicted that we would have a recession and we would have a stock market crash at the end of Q1, and we had a recession, Q1, Q2 being a technical recession in the US, and we had a stock market crash. So I'm a winner. So what do I predict for 2023? Well, the prediction is a real recession. A technical recession is just a reduction in GDP. A real recession is when companies start firing people and unemployment increases. I don't think unemployment will increase that much as in past recessions, but I do think it will uptick a bit, and GDP will definitely go down as people rein in spending. That can already be seen. We'll start seeing it immediately from the Q4 results in January and February. That will crash the market even further, and the reality will set in. Now, will inflation go away? I mean, we've increased interest rates at such a rapid pace. The answer is obviously no, and the reason is inflation will not go away because the interest rates are a joke. There's a negative yield. The gap is so big, 4.25%. We've got 7.1% in American interest rates. Your negative 3% is a joke. It's not doing anything to that. And really, inflation is a cause of government. Government spending is not being reined in. It's even more absurd. So a government can raise money from two ways: either taxation or borrowing. So they've not done taxation in America for 20 years. They've refused to increase it. They've just done borrowing. They've abused their reserve currency status. Now, borrowing, before you got two ways there. You can either borrow from the markets, and they're going to punish you if you borrow too much. If you're like in America, 120% of GDP in borrowing, they're going to demand much higher interest rates. So you can't go to the market. So the only other way is to borrow from your central bank, which is what they've been doing since 2008. And they will continue to do so. The government will continue to borrow from the central bank. They'll continue funding the government spending. And we just had the 1.7 trillion government budget for next year in America approved, with 100 billion going to Ukraine, $200 million for every congressman that could have been spent on their own population, going to a pointless war in Ukraine when you can just have diplomacy. Russia wants to sit down, but you just want to continue a war. Okay, what does America care? It's being funded by its central bank, so it doesn't matter. So that causes inflation, okay? There's no other way around it. This causes inflation, whether it's in the CPI or into real inflation, so it's assets. It will cause it, and things will spiral out of control. House prices will still go up. Stock prices will still go up. Eventually, it'll go down, and they'll dip back up when they restart, when they pivot. They're going to pivot very quick. I think I've said it already. They've already pivoted anyway. So it'll be 0.25% increase in January interest rates, and then a pause, and then eventually, maybe not in 2023, but eventually they will decrease those rates again. So inflation isn't going anywhere, guys. That's what you have to understand. The government's still borrowing, and if they still borrow, that causes more inflation because they're just spending it into existence, and that increases the prices for everything. Not only that, we have aging population. Finally, the baby boomers are finally retiring, and that causes less people working in the economy. Wages have to go higher for less productivity, so productivity goes down. You can't use globalization anymore due to sanctions with China, and China facing their own population issues. Currently in China, you have the laying flat. The young are so disheartened with the system that they are refusing to budge unless you pay them substantially higher wages. They don't want to work for crumbs anymore, and so therefore the whole globalization, reducing prices has been eked out. There is not going to be any more of this reducing prices by shipping things abroad. It's done. It's finished. There's no more globalization saving you money. So the only thing you've got is higher prices for everything. Inflation increases. Wages can't keep up with that. Companies being squeezed at the margins. They either go bankrupt because they can't pay the higher wages, they can't pay the higher input costs, and that means you're left with those ingrained monopolies that will just increase prices. That's what happens. The governments aren't going to do anything about monopolies. We're just going to increase prices, and that's the way it is. So 2023 is a disaster year, as the fruits, how do we call it? The hens come to roost. What's it called? Whatever it's called. You're going to see what happens when you can't raise interest rates anymore. Inflation remains stubbornly high. It will be below 7% for sure, but it's going to be way above 2% by December 2023. Okay, they will not have tamed it because they just keep spending money, and so that's where we are. So enjoy your 2023, guys. It's going to be painful, but let's see. Maybe they'll pivot. I think they will. Maybe, I mean, proper pivot, meaning they'll cut interest rates. We'll see. That will be the big boost.